record here. And whenever we do this, the first thing we always say is, today is, what is today, the 17th?
It
the 16th.
is the 16th, yeah.
Today
Okay.
is December 16th, 2021.
All right.
And we're here in the James B. Dean Memorial Library. We're interviewing Mr. George Curtis Jr.
Yes.
And I'm Brandon Lunsford. I'm the archivist at the university library, so just to say who I am. And so I guess what you should really do first is just tell me about you. I mean, tell me your story. I guess tell me how you came to Smith for the first thing.
Oh, okay. Well, my name is George Curtis Jr. What happened was after high school, I was trying to decide on what career I wanted to do and decided to go to the military. So went to the military, hung around, got to do some exciting things and got to go to some exciting places. And then after I retired, I said, well, you know what? The one thing I didn't do was achieve my goals in education. So I decided that I wanted to go to fulfill my undergrad. When I moved here, UNC Charlotte was an option, but then I didn't know there was an HBCU here, and then I was like, wow, there's an HBCU here. And my daughter was going to school at the same time, and I didn't want to interfere with her her time at school on UNC Charlotte, because who wants their dad looking at them, watching them the whole time while they having their college experience. So it was a blessing that I found Johnson C. Smith. And I was like, okay, well, outstanding. I get to go to a HBCU, and I was excited about that.
And what was this?
And this right here was in 2000 and 12?
Okay, so you're recent.
Yeah, 2012. Yeah. I retired in 2008, and then I was thinking, I went to some other schools, and then I got my associate degree in network security, and then I said, okay, well, let me go and see what else I can do. And psychology always kind of excited me, and the human mind, how people think, and why did they do what they do. I decided to make that my undergrad.
So you went to the military right from high school, though.
Oh yes.
So what led you to that? When was that?
Ooh, wow, we're going way back in time. I'm going to say, I came out in 1986, and I came into the military in 1988. Okay. So I spent 2 years kind of trying to find myself. I worked in jobs in the industry, in industrial jobs, kind of like that. So I did that for a minute, and then I decided that I would love to see the world, and what better way to see the world than on Uncle Sam dime. So yeah.
That's fair. Well, was that, did you get to see the world?
More the world than I wanted to see. I didn't know what awaited me during this time, but yeah, I did get a chance to travel, and I did get a chance to do some exciting things.
Awesome. Well, of course, this exhibit and this project is going to be about Black veterans.
Awesome.
So your unique experience as a man of color.
Oh yeah.
I want you to tell me about that. Like how was that experience for you? How did you feel that it was different?
Well, I mean,
potentially different.
I think one of the ways is because growing up, we didn't always have a lot of money and everything, and I didn't like the fact that money was an issue in our lives. My mom, she did the best she could, but she was a single mom, and I didn't know what my father was and what he was doing. It's just that a lot of times he wasn't financially available the way that she wanted him to be. So a lot of times money was the issue, and I said, well, I like to not repeat that same, she did the best she could, but I didn't want to repeat, that kind of legacy that we had in our family. So the military was a good way for me to find myself, get paid, and travel. So those was the things that I wanted to do, and Uncle Sam provided that through that route right there of the military. So.
Were there when you went to basic training, which was where?
I went to basic training in Fort Knox, Kentucky.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's where all the gold is,
I
right?
know, yeah. Supposedly, I haven't seen it go, but yeah,
Oh, man,
supposedly
you
this.
didn't see it?
I wish they would have
Probably
shared.
in the ground.
I appreciate it.
Well, were there other black men that were in your basic training, or did you feel like you were really solitary?
There was a lot of black men who came in. I didn't feel like I was, nothing to stand out. It was a lot of black men who was there who came in. I met a lot of people who were, black, white, Native Americans, people from different countries, Hispanic. So I mean, it was a great melting pot of different ideas and cultures, and it was great for me because where I went to school and where I grew up, I was only exposed to people of color. But by doing this, I was exposed to a melting pot of different cultures, of different people, and it was great to kind of separate the myth from what was actually true. So and that was great.
That's really interesting. I wonder if that was the case. I wonder if that's the case for a lot of these guys who have never been. Because, I mean, I think, at least for me, I mean, well, I went to a very racially diverse high school, but a lot of people I knew didn't.
Yes.
There was I went to school in Salisbury, and like,
Okay.
there's a lot of very, very white schools. And,
Yes.
and so, and a lot of people may not have been, a lot of people may not have been exposed to other people, other cultures
Yes.
until they went to college. But for people that weren't able to go to college, and maybe the military was the way they were able to do that. I wonder if that's something that.
That's a good point, and I think that's a good comparison right there because by going to universities or going to the military or different places, you get to be exposed to different people, and you understand why their culture is a certain way, the history of it, and it make the understanding better. So I think it kind of brings down on walls. You found out that you are more alike than you are different than someone of a different color or race or creed or religion. So that was a good experience for me.
That's nice. So do you have any? I mean, was like your dad? Did your dad serve? Did you have any other people in your family that?
My father served. He didn't serve as long as I did. He served as he was in the airborne. I had uncles who served, and I used to remember watching them come home in their uniform and how exciting it was to see them in their dress uniform when they came home. And so we did. We come from a family of service. We come from a family that always wanted to serve one way or the other. So and it was great that we was able to do that. But for me to see people who served and to see them serve in the era that they served in, it was great for me because I see that they was they look different, they talk different, they act different, and it was more of a way that I wanted to be. It was so different than what I saw from the day to day that it was something that really I felt myself being interested in that very much.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I feel like a lot of people who serve that I've talked to, or have a lot of family members who serve.
Oh yeah.
Lots of times it just sort of it's the family legacy, I suppose.
Oh yeah.
So interesting. So when you saw combat, I imagine.
I did.
Do you feel like talking about that, or do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, we could talk about it.
I mean, where was this Desert Storm?
I'm
trying to think of the time period here, right?
Oh yeah, when I first was exposed to combat with Desert Storm, I had left Germany, and that's when Saddam had invaded Kuwait. So and then I went to Fort Stewart, Georgia, and I was at Fort Stewart, Georgia, and I remember watching the news, and it was talking about what happened and what was going on during that time period, and I was asking, people who've been in the military longer than me, and I was asking them, I said, well, what are the chances of us being involved in this war? And they said, well, listen, because my job said I was on tanks, I was an Army crewman, so they said, listen, your tanks are not painted sand color for nothing. So, so that was the region that we was responsible for, was the desert region. So we trained for the desert. We trained in a place called NTC that's located in Fort Irwin, California. So we trained in the desert, and that's when I knew that it was a good possibility of us going to war. So watching CNN and seeing that that the whole conflict was it wasn't quieting down. It was just kind of escalating, and I was like, okay, well, I see that this may happen. So yeah, I did end up going to combat with my unit from Fort Stewart, Georgia.
And did you see, were there, I feel like a lot of, that was the first war I ever saw on TV.
Yes.
So, I mean, I guess it was like Vietnam for a lot of people. Well, that was the first thing they ever saw on television coverage.
Yeah.
For me, it was a very different time, of course, but that was what it was just what seemed real for the first time, I guess, that we were actually in. And nobody knew at that time, of course, what was going to happen, that it was going to be. And it ended up being a fairly short thing. So.
Yeah, the conflict itself was short, but we left. I remember leaving. We left in the summer because we left the same time that 82nd Airborne left because we were the armor support. We were the support for them. So when 82nd left, and they were part of 18th Airborne Corps, and so were we. So when they left, that's when we started prepping to put our tanks on the ship, and prepping to leave to deploy to that region. And once we got there in August, and I think the conflict didn't end until I think it was March or April time frame. So we were there for a little while, even though the whole offensive conflict didn't last about 100 hours. So we was there for a while, and we was doing operations in Saudi Arabia, and we were just prepping ourselves to go across the border into Iraq when the time came. So yeah, it was really fast, but the time spent there was very long. It was long days out in 100-something degree weather, and just kind of this young man who came from Baltimore, Maryland. Now I'm inside of this sandbox. Was kind of surreal to me because I'm thinking like, wow, this is somebody.
World.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is really unique because now I'm thinking that there's somebody across a imaginary line who wants to hurt me or cause really want to kill me. And it's kind of when you think about it, it's like, wow, I was really in a war,
Right.
So
that's crazy. I mean,
yeah, it is.
And I interviewed someone a while back who was in Vietnam.
Oh yeah.
A black soldier in Vietnam that we interviewed about something else, but we started talking about that.
Yeah.
He said a lot of he said that sort of same thing about how you knew someone over there that you didn't know was trying to kill you, and as a black man, it was extra hard for him because he felt like, why should I have to kill these people? Then
Exactly.
Of course, that was a common thing that was talked about a lot.
Yeah.
And I know times have changed since Vietnam, but probably wasn't that same kind of, because you've talked about a lot of like togetherness and.
Well, yeah, but we was together on this because I always consider those guys my brothers because you never know who the last face you will see in combat. You never know who the last person that's going to be there to help you or who will pull you out or who had to give you first aid. And by knowing that this person right here is a person who's watching your back, it was different. It was I still talk to the guys. We still talk and discuss what happened. Of course, it's like a fisherman tale. The fish got bigger now instead of exactly. It was more to it than it was before. Last year it was this big, but now it's this big. But I talk to the guys, and I do talk to a lot of people from different eras of who was involved in different conflicts, and they tell me some of the some of the problems that they had or some of the issues they had in the military, and some of them still was there, and that you would meet someone who didn't like you for no other reason than the color of your skin, but they were forced to trust you right now because you was put into this unique situation, and some of them, they mind changed when you got back. You could tell that there was a difference in them, and some of them didn't. It was just it was just one of those things where some people was just kind of stuck in whatever they thought, of a certain person because of their skin color or religion. They still thought that way when they came back. So
Yeah, he said a lot too. He said that his anger that he felt about this country that didn't care about me and obviously didn't care about me sent me to do its fighting for him. Of course, it was the country that he was upset with, not like the man that he was with. Yeah, and he said the same thing. Some of the things you said too about some of them may have been racist, but at that time, like all you were focused on was these were your partners. These are your brothers, and like that's a bond that you can't really like ever break.
No.
So yeah, I think he came through and learned something. So what about after Desert Storm was over? Then what?
Well, after Desert Storm was over, I started thinking about my life choices. I started thinking like, okay, well, like a lot of my friends, some of them decided that, the military, they served their time and they did it faithfully, and it was time to move on. And I thought the same. So I decided to get out, and I say, well, I'm gonna get out of the military and see what else is out there in the civilian world. Of course, I'm a different person, and then I got a little more experience underneath my belt. So maybe. I could find some better options. I was out for maybe about 2 or 3 months, and then I decided to go back into the military again. I decided to go back in, and then my next duty station was in Fort Carson, Colorado. So I decided to go to Colorado. Beautiful place. Just one of them. Once again, the scenery was different than what I knew. I was exposed to hiking and mountain biking and different things that I would not be exposed to if I would have stayed in Baltimore during this time. So same thing though. Met some people who was pretty cool, pretty good, and everything. Met some people who not so much, and but yeah.
And so when did you actually leave the military for good then?
Well, I left the military for good. In 1988 is when I got out. I got out June 1st, 1988 was my last day.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. And
I'm sorry. So I said 1988. I mean 2008, 1988 when I came in. I'm sorry.
Yeah. 2008. So you were in the military for 20 years.
Yeah, did 20 years and everything. I told my wife. I said, listen, I may not know when it's time to get out. I may not recognize it because I would have stayed in the military longer if I could. And but my wife, because of course coming in when you're 19, 20 years old is different than when you're in your 40s now. Your body is different. Your mindset is different. You got some wear and tear on both your mind and body. And my wife, she was like, well, I think it's time for us to hang our boots up and go. So I was like, okay, well.
So, did you see maybe a change in the military over those 20 years? I mean, the way things were done, like, or was it, or no?
I seen a change in the military, maybe a little bit, maybe not much. I think the military, because it's made up of people, and it's a microcosm of society, that if society don't change that much, the military won't change that much neither. The discipline level, we always had discipline, so that was always there. We always adhered to a certain schedule of what we did and how we trained. So, but the people was the same. And, some people, like I said, some people came in, they was cool, and we was able to, operate as we should, and then some people, they had a mindset that maybe was not the best for the military lifestyle.
So coming home and leaving the military and going to school, what were some of the challenges that you faced since you left? Adjusting to a world you're not in.
Well, one of them is, and I think what a lot of people face is the way that it's amazing how the outside world is. We always talk about being civilian life is a weird kind of life. Mm-hmm. The way you will operate in at work, the people are weird because they do weird things. But mostly it's just how society is. I seen people of color who were not treated in my mind fairly in some instance, and I'm thinking like, wow, I said this is crazy, because I say, this person is being judged by something other than his merits. He's being judged by his skin color, and so it's a lot of things that happen, in the news that was kind of like disheartening to me. But the most part, the biggest part was the guys that I served with, some guys that I served with who I thought we had the same mindset. I see them on Facebook, the way they express their ideas differently, and I'm like, wow, man, I didn't think that you thought that way. We shared a lot together, and this is what you think, and so, and they probably said the same about me. They probably were like, wow, Curtis really think this way, and this is enlightening. So I really didn't know nobody political affiliation in the military. I never asked, how they stood one way or the other. They never asked me. So that was something else we didn't know. I really didn't know unless they expressed it. I didn't know their religious affiliation. I really didn't care. It wasn't something that was important to me. And it seems that when you got into the civilian world, it seemed like it was more important that someone knew about it. Which side of the line you stood on, and it kind of like, wow. I said, this is kind of divisive. So
yeah, I think we all learned a lot about about a lot of different people.
Oh yeah,
that we may have known, in our family and our friends, and
especially family.
Things that you never thought would be pulled to the surface. And until it
yeah.
It felt okay to say these things.
Exactly.
To these people.
And you said family, and with some family members, I said, wow, do you really believe this about people? And I said, I don't think that's right. And they would say, according to me, this is right. And I'm like, wow. I said, so yeah. So that's.
So yeah, it's interesting that the military, getting that, you still kind of. It's also very similar, but it seems like what you're saying is that like it was a kind of an equalizer while you guys were all there. You guys were all in the same.
It's supposed to work that way. Yeah, it's supposed to work that way. But going to different units, because usually you stay with a unit for about maybe 2 to 3 years, and then you will go to a different unit. You will go somewhere else on the needs of the military. Where they need you at, that's where you will go. So, you will meet people and you be like, oh, this person right here really got it together, or this person we really vibing together and we operating well. And then some units you will go to, maybe not so much. So I know that some people have, because anything that you have with humans involved, it may be kind of tainted. It will lean one way or the other. Somebody may like, orange when there is yellow, and you wearing the wrong colors, or you came from the wrong state, or you didn't go to this school. You see them kind of cracks in there, but they usually are corrected by somebody coming in place and saying, okay, I seen where there was a mistake here. Let's correct that right there. So that's what one of the good things that was about the military. You knew that whatever position this person was in, they wouldn't be there in that position for long, because the military would send them away, or somebody would find out that they're not operating in a fair manner and correct it and go on from there.
Well, that's pretty much. I got one more question for you, really, but I guess this is not deep one, but I mean, so let's say right now there was a man who just I guess you would say a man, a boy, or a man who had just graduated high school, and let's say he's a man of color. What would you, in your experience and what you thought when you were going in, what advice would you give him if you were, I'm going to join the military and I'm going to see the world? What would you say?
I would tell him I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
I would say it's a great idea. If you don't have anything else of substance that that fill that gap, I think the military is a good way to go. You get to serve your country. I didn't come into the military originally to serve my country. That wasn't my intent. My intent was to travel and see the world. My love for my country and what I was doing came later as I started to serve because I seen how important it was. You know, it was something that grew in me as I served. It wasn't something that originated just because my community. It was not like, okay, yeah, serve your country and have this great love for your country and everything. It wasn't something that we had, but it was something that grew in me as I served, and I saw it, and I saw the United States in a different manner from the eyes of different people from different countries. So I would tell that person, I would say, listen, serve. I say, if you could get the chance to serve, you should, and if you can, you get this, you will get a head start on life. You'll get paid for it, and you also will be able to see the world. The world is getting smaller because of technology. I think technology is making the world smaller. So we would have to work with other people from different countries. And the more we understand them by going there and seeing them and operating with them, the more we'll see like this person is more like me. They want a family. They want to do this. They want to be successful. All these values that I hold dear to myself, they have them also. It's just that they are doing it in a different region. So I would most definitely tell them to serve and everything, and I would give them the experience that, or I would give them the advice that, listen, you gotta understand that if you work here or if you work over there, you're gonna meet people that you like. You're gonna meet good people. You're gonna meet bad people. You're gonna meet people who understand you a little better than other people, and it's just a way of life. It's just gonna be that's the way it's gonna be. So. But yeah.
All right, that's a good answer.
Yeah. Okay.
So I guess that's it. So what was your rank when you
Well, by retired, I was a staff sergeant. So
Right.
yeah,
Wow.
so I was operating as a platoon sergeant for my platoon. So yeah.
Well, Staff Sergeant Curtis, thank you.
Thank you very much for your
Thank you
time.
for
I
doing
appreciate
this.
it. No,
Appreciate
thank
it.
you.